Has anyone done lightning talks before? Know what we're going to do? Yeah.
What?
Lightning talks. So, we're going to have a timer. We'll have 5 minutes to talk about something you want to talk about. Don't need slides. You can come and rant about something. Show off something that you've been working on. Show off event. Talk about events that you think people should be interested in going to. Anything you want.
So here's a question. Can you have a lightning discussion?
Yes, you've got your 5 minutes. You get 2 minutes at the end for questions as well. But yeah, whatever you want to do, as quick as you can. 5 minutes isn't very long.
Do you want my 5 minute timer?
If you've got a 5 minute timer set,
For that.
yeah, go for it. I was going to use my phone, but I haven't done anything yet. First thing is, I have something I could talk about, but if anyone wants to jump in first.
He's looking at me. What thoughts something to rant about?
You've thought about something?
a proper rant.
That's perfect.
fun.
You can come and get into it. We're just going to set up a timer.
It's not really very long, actually.
It doesn't matter. That's the whole point. Okay.
I mean,
Give it a couple of
Yeah,
seconds.
Oh, it's 4 minutes, isn't it?
it's Friday night. We've just finished work, say. We're going to go to Sainsbury's to get a pizza, a garlic baguette. We're walking down the road, and on the pathway to Sainsbury's, what do you see on the floor? Anyone know?
Chips.
No.
Arrows.
Yes, but that's not what I'm going to rant about.
Arrows?
Arrows.
Arrows. Which way to walk?
Well, that would be useful. I'm not going to rant about useful. What's annoying me now is disposable vapes. I think these are the most stupid things. I don't understand why they exist. So, if anyone doesn't know, you're not vaping, right? It's like the substitute for smoking. And now what people are making, apparently, is these chunks of plastic, single-use plastic, with a bit of the liquid inside, and you get a few puffs out of it. And then what people inevitably do is just lob it on the floor. And I haven't even mentioned that the packaging is, so you've got a carton, and then it comes in one of those heavy wax bags that you rip open, and then immediately goes on the floor, of course. There's instructions immediately on the floor. And then they vape this thing, it probably lasts a day, and then you go, right? And what it's got inside of it, so okay, it's already plastic, which annoys me, it's single-use plastic. And then it's got a rechargeable lithium-ion battery inside, right? Which is never going to be recharged. And it's got to the point where people now go and harvest them off the floor to extract the batteries in order to reuse them for other applications. But of course, a lot of them just get mashed into the road by cars, and lithium-ion batteries are quite dangerous. It's not the kind of thing you want, on the floor and whatnot. How long have I got left?
3 minutes.
Oh my goodness. How am I going to talk about this for 3 minutes? I don't know, I'll throw it out to you guys. Anyone got any opinions on this?
Yeah, crap.
It's completely crap. So why is there no legislation stopping this? It's all imported, of course, right? We're not manufacturing that here. We're importing millions and millions of these. And if you go onto the high street, there are these shops that are advertising them, and apparently the main target audience is actually teenagers. So people who haven't ever smoked in their life before are buying these things and chucking them on the floor, and it's very trendy. I don't really have much more to say about this.
Canterbury was in the news this week for them, because there's a whole bunch of stores on the high street selling imported ones that haven't passed health checks.
But that's the other thing, you don't really know what is in the liquid, do you? I just think it's the daftest thing ever when you're trying to not generate e-waste.
I think your analysis of the people, the type of... I live opposite a vape shop.
Oh yeah?
I've never been inside it, but they're nice people. But I could probably draw a profile of the sort of people, which would be useful, because then you can actually target your rants at those people, and I could probably draw them up for you, so I can give you a list of people to look out for.
I don't know, I just think that there should be some kind of legislation that says, don't make single-use plastics, don't put lithium-ion batteries in single-use items.
Makes sense.
I think there will be legislation, but what I've noticed, everything I rant against, legislation does come along, I'm nearly 60 now, it comes along slowly.
Yeah.
Legislation in the UK, you're probably looking somewhere between 5 to 10 years for it to happen, but then it does.
Yeah.
And so it's the only way you can force that forward is like a public awareness campaign that short circuits the legislation and pushes it through. So like that in the story, more of that. because I think they're a rubbish idea as well.
Yeah.
You know, a dog will eat one, and then it will kill it because of the battery.
And
So,
the
and then the news will spread.
The problem with legislation and why it takes too long is because what they're going to legislate is going to be a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
And they want things to be cheap. They want the single uses, which is cheap. It's not about targeting the single, the single use. It's about targeting the people that are actually doing this.
Yeah.
And there's too much peer pressure on them to look cool. So they need more education. They need to know that this is not cool. It's not good for their health. It's not too good for the environment. So we're targeting the wrong. Legislation's not going to do anything. It's too expensive. They're going to take forever.
Yeah.
It's also something else we were talking about set throwaway things. If you've only got enough money to buy one of those today, you'll buy one of those today. You won't buy £100 whiz bang bake that's got like everything you want and all the stuff. You'll buy the thing that you can afford today.
Yeah.
Would it be hard to make it reusable just at the same price point?
It would.
Recharging lithium batteries will take a bunch of electronics. So
We need a recharging circuit, but that's...
There's also a plant-based alternative that doesn't generate any waste.
Have we run it long enough?
Yeah, I think that's time.
Okay, thank you.
That's a rant. Right. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward right now? Probably sit over here somewhere. I got a rant. You got one? Come on, rant. What is your rant on?
The moving goalposts trying to buy somewhere to live.
We have a 5-minute timer now.
Where should I stand? Let's stand over here. Right. Okay, so I'm in a very, very fortunate position, much better than other people, but I'm kind of reaching a point where, well, at least I thought I was going to be able to buy a property. So I was living in a flat for a while. My parents said I'd move back in for a bit. You know, great, especially over the pandemic, a lot more space. Probably would have gone crazy in a flat. I ended up getting made redundant. And actually, as a result of that, it gave me the boost I needed to be able to afford property, or at least I thought it did. I've now reached a point where I'm looking to buy, and all of a sudden things are, one, a lot more expensive than they were a couple of years prior, which I thought was a bit surprising. And then the other problem is as well, even though I'm not going for an interest rate-based finance, trying to get that arranged is an absolute nightmare. It's like pulling teeth. And I've been looking around, things I'm finding are not fitting our needs. My kids are getting bigger. One girl, one boy, they're going to need their own rooms. And
Let's reset, sorry.
sorry, I think I was at about 4 minutes. So yeah, now I'm kind of trying to figure out what I can do. So I thought, okay, why don't I just go back to renting? I calculated my monthly costs, etc., and actually, no, that's renting is not looking viable anymore either. Those have gone up too. So I've wasted probably a couple of days in the past week over half term, which I'm kind of regretting. I could have spent that with the kids, looking at properties, viewing properties, scratching my head, 10 o'clock at night, trying to figure out what on earth I'm going to do with myself and my family. My wife has managed to secure a job, but she's working in schools. Looking at one of the areas we were going to move into, we know somebody else up there who had a higher qualification than my wife, was struggling to get a job up there. So whilst I can work remotely, if we move, we suddenly lose a great big chunk of our income because there is no guarantee that my wife is going to get a job there. So again, am I doing it for time? 2.5. Yeah. Again, I'm struggling trying to figure out what to do, and I think we've kind of reached a point where we're thinking that if we don't get anything by the end of January, then at that point we're just going to look to the extreme and move somewhere else, which I really don't want to do because my daughter has trouble making friends. She kind of finally made some at her school, and so having to uproot her again is a big worrying concern. And then there's a question of moving back, because there's things like, although a lot of work is remote, there are a lot of career opportunities and educational opportunities and socialising opportunities within London. And when you move outside, although those opportunities are still there, they're not as numerous. So, how long have I got left?
Don't have to
Okay.
do 5 minutes if you don't
All
want to.
right, so very quickly, has anyone got any ideas? I'm crowdsourcing ideas here. What can I maybe do? Any recommendations?
The interest rates look like, they're not very happy at the moment, they're probably destined to get unhappier. It's a very sort of bleak view that, like, when that happens, the prices of houses are going to go down. So maybe waiting a bit, and some of that trend that you've seen could reverse, but obviously pure speculation, right?
There's something in BCDs where they speculate 8% next year for dropping house prices.
Sorry, what percent?
8%.
And 8%.
Yes, which is quite a lot actually.
Yeah. There's something we need to drop more than 60% for them to be affordable. That's not going to happen.
If you look at Knightsbridge, that's a big saving.
Yeah, 8%'s a Bentley or something.
Sorry, is it Jonathan?
Yeah, bigger houses can be, strangely enough, disproportionately cheaper.
Yes.
And so you need to find two other families like you. You think I'm joking? Two other families like you, and then you draft up a contract where you basically buy a share of that property,
Yeah.
and all live in there, and then you can buy each other out potentially at a later date.
A big house in central London just came up.
Can I just say that London, you said that the opportunities are there in London that don't exist anywhere else in the UK, but that's not the case. There are other big cities in the UK that actually have a lot of opportunities. Glasgow, I live there, it's fantastic. The weather's shite. But honestly, it's a beautiful city and has everything that London has to offer, and very lovely people. So, it's very friendly.
Auction. Don't ignore house auctions.
I did look into that. Unfortunately, the provider that I've got, although because they're basing partly on, because it's shared ownership, because they're going for lower risk, they're not currently entertaining auctions, which is a shame. But
In terms of what?
Can I ask
Finance.
yes.
Can I also mention, that, I mean, I know you want to stay in the UK, obviously, and stuff, but is it worth looking into other countries for a couple of years that pay a lot more? So, for instance,
Right, that's my time up.
and that's my time. So, for instance, the Netherlands, they have, for people that are from abroad, they have, you only pay 30% of the tax there.
I think it was a bit louder than that.
They pay a lot better than here, a lot. So you can go there for a couple of years. Your kids are young, they actually learn the language while they're there, which is very beneficial. The more languages somebody knows at a younger age, the more it'll help them in the future. I can guarantee that. And you come back to the UK with a
Rich.
yeah, well, yes. with a sum of money that you could immediately just buy your place and say, I'm settled. I mean, I know it's 2 years off your life, but there are more job opportunities there.
Okay.
And yeah.
We'll see you in 2 years.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Come back and give us a redux and tell us how it went.
Yes.
Right. Oh, we got a hand straight up.
Yeah, was everyone else?
Yes, you got your hand up, Cam. Reset the timer.
It stopped because someone on the Barcamp Canterbury Twitter team mentioned me. Don't do that, erase it.
I'm not sure if this is a rant or what this is, but this is the third Barcamp I've been to and I've never spoken, and I think that's against the rules, isn't it?
Yes.
Just,
Bordering on it, yeah.
so I thought I should say something today, and I did think about talking about this for the proper talk, and I thought it's just not interesting if I'm long enough, whatever. So what I just wanted to talk about, and it might end up as a rant, is the fact I got a diagnosis nearly 2 years ago of autism, and I guess partly what I want to do is question the benefit or the merit of getting a diagnosis at the age of 56. I was sort of coerced into getting a benefit by a line manager, and it was more for his benefit than mine, so this was a terrible line manager, and I think he wanted to be able to say, oh, it's just Andy. Well, if I was complaining about him, then it's just Andy. Well, that's just my theory, but I ended up getting a diagnosis, and of high functioning ASD, and I don't know if people know about the world of autism, but that, I think if I'd got a diagnosis years ago, I would have been told I had Asperger's. Well, I'll talk about my daughter in a minute, but apparently that's not an acceptable term anymore, so I don't really care what I call it. So the reason I'm questioning the merits of it is there's been some positive things about finding out about it, because you can look back, at the past and see things that happen through a different lens, I guess. But the best thing that came out of it for me was that when I got my diagnosis, my daughter, who was 17 at the time, asked for an assessment, and we managed to we had to pay for it. The schools are useless, the doctors are useless. There's no way of getting a timely diagnosis. But anyway, so turned out that my daughter is autistic. She would tell you she's more autistic than me because she's quite competitive. But she has like, what do you call it, a lot of sensory issues that I don't have. But I think what's happened is I've grown out of a lot of my issues. So she's 18 now, and when she talks about things, I think, oh, that was like, she won't go to the toilet anywhere other than at home. That was me. I forgot it. No, I went to the toilet here earlier. I was interested, so I got over that. So I think she will get over some of her issues, right? But she was having a difficult time as a teenager, and there were missed opportunities at the GP, at school, probably her parents, all had opportunities to identify the fact that she was autistic, and we all missed them. And she thought she had serious mental health issues, because I would keep telling her, oh, that's just normal, you're a normal teenager. No, I wasn't a normal teenager, I was an autistic teenager, so, what did I know? So, I don't know, if anyone here would be considering getting a diagnosis, I think if you're young, it's worth getting a diagnosis. If you're older, I would think twice about it and what it's going to do. People are very nice about it, say, oh, you haven't changed, you're the same person, but it's not true. I've changed because I look at the past differently, I think about things differently now, and it affects my interactions with people. So, it does change. There's a couple of things I wanted to mention. For years, because I work in software development, myself, my brother-in-law is an electronic engineer, we've often said, oh, everyone we work with is on the spectrum. And I now know that isn't true. Most of what I know about autism, I work with my daughter. I'm too lazy to find out. I don't want to join a club. I'm autistic. I don't like people. So, but she tells me that autism, if you think of a Venn diagram, you've got two sets, and they're not, they don't intersect. You've got autistic people and non-autistic people, and the people in the autistic set, they're on the spectrum, but people who aren't autistic aren't. But there's people who aren't autistic, or people who haven't got a disability, for some reason seem to, feel threatened, or try to deny you your disability in some ways. They're friends, I'm sure they think that they're well-intentioned, but when I tell them how my autism affects me and the way I behave and so on, they say, oh, we do that, that's like me. And it's like, oh, it must be different because... Anyway, so the other thing is, my favourite sort of saying, or thing I've heard in the last 2 years is that once you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. So, industry at the moment is trying to recruit neurodiverse people. Like, if you want someone to do this, you want an autistic. If you want someone to do that, you want someone with ADHD. If you want someone to do that, get one of them.
I've got both, and nobody wants to employ me.
Exactly, I'm unemployed too. I didn't know I was autistic, so I've been working for 40 years. Now I'm autistic, and you're only 8% of us that don't work. So,
I just wanted to add that, I had a whole lot of so it's saying, so the last 24 months I've been diagnosed as, was now, again, high functioning level 1 autistic, and will be, my diagnosis is gifted ADHD. Both of these are developmental conditions. They happen before you're born. There's no cure. They are part of your everyday life. They affect it tremendously in various ways. My ADHD means that most of the time I spend in bed because I can't be bothered to do anything. I have executive dysfunction. Makes it very difficult for me to get up in the morning and plan my day. Martin's my old boss, he might be able to vouch for that more than I can. But I just want to say, in Canterbury, in this area, it's actually just a few things. So your daughter, a lot of people think autism only affects boys. Actually, girls are getting diagnosed way more than boys nowadays because they've been ignored for so long. Something like 70% of new diagnoses of autism are in girls. That is how bad it's been before. If you think your school or education is laying you down, you can self-refer. So in Canterbury, there's a company called PSICON, PSICON. They do both private and NHS. I was very lucky. I did an NHS referral. I had my diagnosis and my report in less than a year. And how that process looks is you'll have a phone interview, and then you'll fill in some questionnaires, and then you'll go, and if they think there's a thing to it, you'll go talk to a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist will interview you and a close relative, and what they're looking for is an impact on your childhood. And if they think there's an impact on your child, you'll get your diagnosis. Advantages, I don't know. I feel now that I'm worse than I was because I know. But in other ways, I'm getting help. So with ADHD, I will hopefully very soon be getting medication to help with the fact, as I said, my brain, 5 subjects, a million miles a minute. Ironically, they give you stimulants to slow this down. I don't know how it works. I have to have some heart checks, but hopefully starting that soon. So I'm younger than yourself. I was 31 when I got my autism diagnosis and 32 with ADHD. My nephew was much luckier, he got diagnosed at 6. But his diagnosis led to mine, because behaviours that we saw in him and my other nephew, who's now 5, we suddenly realised were present in me. And it has explained a lot of hardships that I've had in my life. So if it's one of those things that you think, is there something wrong with me? Is there a reason why I'm finding certain things hard? And that can be from paying attention to showering, to planning days, to socialising, to maintaining eye contact. Maybe there is, but there's nothing wrong with that, and there's a huge community of us who have it. Did you have a question, or are you just resting your arm?
No, I was just going to respond to you saying that you're not sure what the benefit of getting diagnosed later on with autism is, but I think sort of having that diagnosis allows you to understand why you are the way you are, and it also opens up like the opportunity to meet other people that have gone through similar things, and they might be able to give you like advice on how to like build strategies to cope with any problems you might have.
And I think in your case it's helped you, in your case it's probably helped you and your daughter, I imagine, from what you were saying.
The best thing is that my daughter's got a diagnosis, and it's definitely been a positive thing.
I'm not saying just go and get a diagnosis, because as you said, there is very much and it's the same with all sorts of things. There's very much a community who want to be autistic because they think it's cool. There's also a community who thinks dying from COVID is better than being autistic. You will have to deal with both of these. Neither of them are particularly nice people.
But I also think with employers as well, like being able to explain this is the way I am because of this allows them to support you as well. Like,
it's impacted ways I was working. If I'm working in an office, I always feel like I want to run away. I didn't know why. I now understand.
You said at the beginning of the talk, you said something about there is no cure for it. Do you think it needs a cure?
There are some people who do.
Sensory overload, that would be nice.
Yes, there are some. I would rather not have some of the things that I have.
Yes.
There's a very, very big debate whether there should be a cure or not. The thing is it's a developmental disease that doesn't show itself until later on. It's almost impossible to justify. It was just saying to people.
And I realise that some that are more advanced on the spectrum, yes, things are much more basic, but when you're...
I just said that line because there are some people who think there is.
Yeah.
Or think, oh, I've got it, there's a medication I can take or something I can do. I just wanted to be quite clear that, unfortunately, there are techniques and there are coping methods and there are communities, but they are not things with cures. There are managing.
You don't think it adds to your individuality, that makes you different, but doesn't make you ill? I mean, I don't know, I'm not.
Well, I want to wrap up and let someone else talk.
Yeah.
I jumped in on that. I'm happy to have conversations afterwards out there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's good. So I wasn't going to interrupt stuff, but we want to get some, hopefully lots more people want to give some shorts.
If not, I'll spend the next 32 days talking about autism, apparently.
But yeah, it's a really important thing to talk about.
And the other thing with autism is you often say things without realising.
Filtering information.
Yeah, very fun.
So we're back to a show of hands. Anyone else got anything else to talk about? Do you think that someone talk? If you haven't got anything right now, is there something to talk about earlier that you want to share with some extra people, or expand on that you didn't? David? Okay, come on then.
Do you want slides or you?
I've got slides, but I've literally prepared them
If you
today.
don't
and
want
they're
them, I'll
No, just rant.
I'll put the ominous number.
Let's rant. Okay, let's just rant. It's easier to rant.
Very short time.
That is the wrong slide.
It's
That
probably
is
not going to
the
be 5
correct
minutes. Probably
slide.
shorter than that. So, software engineer here. Hello. Being occasionally, as a software engineer, you're given very odd problems to solve. One that came up recently was the problem of what happens when you get a string of randomly generated alphanumeric characters, or specifically alphanumeric characters that are generated in sequence to give you a code. So you're given like the number 0, and it generates like the result as a string in alphanumeric. So you get so you start so the first one is going to be 0, 0, 0, 1 up until it keeps going around 8,000 times, and it's like Z, 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 Z basically. Now there's a problem with alphanumeric characters in that they form words. And there's going to be certain situations where you then get words where those words are not the things you want people to see. Like, you might want those words to not appear at a certain cultural event or involving children, and yeah, you have to make sure that those words don't appear. So you then need to come up with a system to make it impossible for those kind of words to appear. Now, simple answer is to just have a system which doesn't have like the way to generate words. Like you could just space the characters out. That might be one way. However, if you've got a system which has a set length number of words, like a 4-letter characters, then you're kind of stuck. You can't. And it's something you can't change. You kind of have to make it keep generating those 4 words, those 4-letter words. So, all right, you've still. So within that constraint, how do you deal with the problem? Well, you make it impossible to make words. So you could perhaps eliminate all vowels. If you eliminate vowels from that set, you would make it impossible to make most words. Okay, so then you've all got is numbers and consonants. You then, however, still have more problems. Because though you've limited the ability to make most words, some words you can substitute numbers, which kind of look like vowels. And because good old phenomenon you might, as most of us I'm sure has grown up with, known as leet speak, where you end up with like words and numbers together, such as TW4T. Yeah, I think you know that one. And so on. So, okay, right, so got to eliminate more things. So if we just eliminate the numbers that look like the words as well, then it makes the character set even just smaller a little bit. So we've got fewer possible combinations. We have to skip it. So going back to the fact that we've sequentially generated these words from the number, so that means we then have to skip every combination which results in that possible word. So we've gone from perhaps say about 1.6 million possible combinations of a 4-letter word for a full character set, to about 400,000 or so, I think. So you have to, you're talking about eliminating all vowels and those numbers altogether. So, and then, okay, that's had a significant impact on the number of codes you can generate, but also then on top of that, you've safely eliminated all those words. So you're sitting there going like, yeah, perfect, okay, it's a bit complicated, it's a bit weird, but it's solved the problem. You no longer get these words appearing in your numbers, effectively. So, not quite, because it doesn't factor in that there are other languages. And some other languages don't need vowels for those kind of words. Welsh is quite a fun language.
Oh, because they use Y, don't they?
Yes, so the basic rule is there is if you come up with a system which designs which outputs alphanumeric characters in a certain way, just don't make it impossible to generate 3 or 4-letter words out of it. And that's basically my rant.
I know. Tom Scott did the YouTuber Tom Scott did a video specifically called the Scunthorpe effect.
Exactly.
Which is that people can't write. For example, you notice that my I won't use Scunthorpe because to say the word that's problematic might be an issue. But my Twitter tag is smutching, so it's a shortening of my first and last name. I cannot put that into any Nintendo product because it has the word smut in it. And the same appears for people who try to say they live in Scunthorpe. Certain address filters would say that this has got a swear word in it, you cannot live here.
Exactly. It's exactly that kind of problem. It's like it's that problem in reverse, basically, because you want to keep the word Scunthorpe. Like you've got to at the same time, if you're basically wiping Scunthorpe off the map, which I don't think they'd appreciate.
Does it have to be alphanumeric, or can you switch to symbols?
I wish we could switch to symbols, but I think that would be a very different problem.
Use emoji.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say the same thing. Instead of using, you're using an alphanumeric system, but instead of using the vowels in English, for instance, why not use not vowels but consonants from another alphabet?
Yeah, that would be an interesting way to solve it. I think, though, these codes would still need to be these codes would be used in a specific situation where a person would still need to read them out. So,
yeah, but what I'm talking about is like you've got 5 vowels in the English language. Let's say. You replace O, for instance, with the Greek beta. You can still read it because we know beta is O now, but there's no way you're going to get flat.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
How about deny listing words and doing it?
Yes, that's another good one. Like if you simply have a block list, if you simply block out all the words, but then you've got a lot of words you might have to block, and also you have to maintain that list.
So what a job has got to be.
That as well is that you might actually get words in another language, but they will still come out.
Yeah, you're going to need to maintain a block list in all languages.
Yes.
Yeah.
But why even show the customer the number of it? Just don't show it. Right.
Because it's actually a number that they would see directly because it's their identifier. So it's there. It's literally the kind of identifier that gets printed on a ticket. So then you would a customer would see it.
So maybe you could put a trigger warning up before.
We could. Yeah. Do not look at your.
So, you're saying you're going from a numeric ID to these IDs. Do you have to map back to the original ID as well?
No, it's only one way really. It's just the number is just to generate the ID in the first place. Yeah, the number is basically to the database record. So it's just it's literally just that going to the
There's a whole bunch of problems if you're skipping things to map back.
Exactly. There's so many ways this could have been done that differently.
Thank you, Dave. Sorry? We've got 2 hours. We've got an hour for this one, sorry.
I thought it was half an hour.
It's normally half an hour. I asked and no one said no, so I kept it. We can. Right, have we got any more hands? Or do I have to talk for a bit? No more hands?
Just, what is it, 4 o'clock? There are no other talks scheduled at this time. So
Okay.
we have an influx of people.
I'm happy to talk about work stuff for a little bit. Oh, we've got a timer.
Yep, should be. There we
Cool.
go.
So, I'm a pen tester. For work, I do penetration testing. I hack into people's websites. People pay me to do it. We try and do it before someone else can. Hopefully I'm better than some of the people out there that are doing it. Probably not. They've got infinite time. We don't. But one of the big things that we see in the industry is we have the idea of a company gets told by a third party that they need to have their sites tested and penetration tested. So they come up to us and go, how long is it going to take to test this website? And we have to go, about 3 weeks, guess a number, because we've got no idea. No one knows how big their website is. They don't know how big their website is. And it's going to take 2 years to actually test because there's 1 billion inputs and no one's ever going to do it in a sensible amount of time, but apparently the industry just goes, yeah, it's fine. 3 days, 3 weeks, we'll get it all done then. And then they go home, we spend those 3 weeks with them, we turn up, they haven't got anything ready, so we lose a few days, and then we do this test, we give them a report, they go home, and they fix stuff. Well, some of them do. A lot of them come back the next year and go, can you test this? And you go, have you done any changes since last year? No. Then why are you having it tested again? But with the company I'm currently working at, we try and do work a bit differently with our clients. Some of our clients, trying to be most of our clients, we actually work with month after month after month. So instead of doing an annual penetration test where we might do 3 weeks against them, we'll try and get them for 12 weeks in a year and go, right, well, let's use this time. We don't know how big this piece of string is. Let's dig away over this year and try and find every thread that we can pull on. So it might start off on their website because they've got a compliance reason that says we need a penetration test for this. So we'll go against that for a while, and then after a couple of weeks we'll go, well, maybe your website's got like 4 inputs. You don't need to spend this time on it. But right now there's loads of people hacking Uber by social engineering. Why don't we get someone else from the team to come and spend the week with you doing a phishing campaign against you? And suddenly companies have this, our clients have this like rotating thought pattern of like, what else should we be working on? It's not just, let's get a tick box, let's make our clients happy by having a report that we're not going to show them anyway, let's try and work together and try and get everything better for the company. Not sure exactly it's working perfectly with some of our clients yet, but it's definitely a more interesting and more fun way of working with people than 3 weeks sitting by yourself and giving them a report at the end. So a lot of our... has anyone been through the penetration testing process for anything? Yeah. General, from a software side or from a testing side?
From infrastructure and software.
And thoughts on how it went?
Very, very painful. Eyes popping out of head, wondering how on earth they managed to do what they did. And probably the best part about the process after the initial shock was recommendations on how to fix things, and then implementing those, and then in subsequent testing finding out that, hey, they can't break it like that anymore.
And that's one of the fun ways of us working like this as opposed to doing that annual test, is we might have to do 3 weeks on a web app to get it covered, but after the first week we feedback everything we've found in that week. We don't wait till the end to write a report, and they come back to us and go, well, we've fixed all that. Let's go, and so before we even got to the end of the report, we end up, if we actually have to write a report for them, which we try not to, the report will say, we found a bunch of stuff and they fixed it. Instead of them getting a report which they sit on for a year, and then a week before the next test, someone remembers they need to test and try and fix everything.
And another thing that related to pen testing is I was monitoring the logs for something, and all of a sudden I saw lots of requests in the logs, and I freaked out. And I made some calls, and it turns out that somebody neglected to tell me that they have a piece of software running that does some kind of automated pen testing. And I was just thinking it would be nice if you could have told me before, because I thought we had a major issue here.
Yeah, but also on the other hand, you're testing your process then. So you did the right thing. You saw something dodgy, you've reported it, that process is working, and now they can fix the process to make sure you don't have to worry about it anymore. We quite often we're doing tests like internally. We either don't tell them what's going on, or we make sure everyone's completely open. But both processes are useful. I know I've already started asking questions, but any questions?
Yeah, I've worked in testing for 20 odd years, but pen testing has always been this scary specialist thing that has been outsourced to third parties. But when companies do that, I assume they're doing that partly maybe for good practice, but maybe because there's regulatory reasons why they have to penetration test or getting things like cyber essentials out. I don't know. But if someone outsources their penetration testing to a company like yours, and you fail to find something that is something that's later exploited, what's the comeback?
Insurance.
Okay, so the fact that
our company is heavily insured against liability for what we, because there is a specialist like insurance for this stuff, and they understand that we won't find everything because that's impossible. Unless we can sit down and read every line of code and every level of your system, never going to happen. But they insure us and they trust us enough that we are making their clients safer, and they're less likely to have to pay out to other clients who are also in the same sort of insurance. So The same sort of companies that insure us insure companies against cyber liability internally. So if we're making them stronger, they have less payouts, so they're happy for us to be doing it. So that's how all the finances eventually boil down to insurance.
Any advice like trying to find a company that does pen testing that's good, because I've gone through pen testing a few times. Sometimes they like to find nothing, it was entirely useful, sometimes they're quite good. Are there any identifiers for people who are going to do it?
Previous work is normally the best thing to look at. I would say our company, but that's just being cheeky. The big guys are normally safe to go with, but their quality of work depends very much on who they've assigned to it. So there's the big guys like NCC Group who've got some amazing testers, and they'll send someone out great for your first test. They'll sign you up for 5 years, and then they'll put the apprentice in for 4 years. But I'm not NCC Group. That was mean, but that idea. Huge companies that, yeah, it's a hard thing. Shop around, change occasionally. Crest is a terrible, terrible company, but yes, it is like a key to play. So yeah, if they've got it, they're probably not awful. I've run out of time. Anything else quickly before I sit down? And
what's the digital version of a high-vis jacket and a clipboard?
Just sitting on the internet because no one sees you.
Is it like the guy who calls your parents going like, hello, there is a virus on your computer?
I don't have a computer, it's definitely there.
How do you validate you have permission to do a pen test?
It's contracts. It's discussion with clients, and comes down to a bit of feeling in the end. Quite often it's very clear that someone's going, this is ours and this is not ours. Occasionally there's grey areas. It used to be much worse when testing things like cloud infrastructure. So anything in AWS used to be an absolute nightmare because you had to give them a form saying exactly your maximum traffic density and whatever. They've now gone, just do it and don't hit these components and don't hit anyone else's. So it's kind of okay now, but yeah, it's all contracts, and if they muck up again, contracts puts it back on them, not us.
What if the cloud servers are in another country?
Pardon?
What if the cloud servers are in another country, so the rules here don't apply?
Hopefully our lawyers know what they're doing. We typically, but in the UK it's a grey area anyway. There's so much, like the cybersecurity laws in the UK are terrible. It's very easy to foot gun yourself with them, but typically it relies on someone having a go. Like, even if you break the law accidentally and no one cares about it, it doesn't. Alright, I have run over a lot.
I was just wondering, does it worry you that legislators often aren't really informed on?
Oh, they're idiots.
And, you know, they keep trying to pass these oppressive laws all the time, and you could be criminalised like any second.
Yeah, and they're the ones who will get criminalised because they all send their WhatsApp messages to journalists.
Oh God, those WhatsApp groups. Yes.
Yeah, the UK cybersecurity legislation, since its inception, has been terrible. The wording is so vague. In some ways it's good because the spirit of the law is typically taken, not the word of the law. In the UK that kind of exists as an option still, but using a computer system without permission is basically against the law. And that can be someone going, you've found page 2 and it's not linked on a website. If you go to that page that's not linked, technically you have not had permission to go to it, you're breaking the cyber security law by the wording of the law. It's, thankfully, typically it's been, and recently it's been treated quite well in the courts, but who knows? Right, anyone else got anything they want to rant about? Go on then. Yeah, go on then.
Me?
Yeah, you put your hand up.
Well, it's not really a rant.
It doesn't have to be a rant, just a talk.
I've got a question. Some of the people in here I saw earlier, one or two. So, the project we're working on is called Net Zero Product Design. We're trying to help design engineers make more informed choices when they're designing new products to make those products ultimately more sustainable. At the moment, the information to be able to do that doesn't really exist in one place.
So we're building a database of the most sustainable materials and products you can choose. To achieve that, the first offer we're putting out to the world is for every manufacturer of a material, a component, product, electronic, mechanical, electrical, etc., to add one entry to the database which they consider to be their most sustainable technology. The question we've got is, I'm going to have to write a message, an email, which I'm going to have to send out to thousands of people, and I want the response to be for them to go to a web page where they can fill in a form, upload some information about their products, and start to build that database. I have no idea how to phrase that request because I don't even know if email is the method to use. I don't know whether social media would be a better place. I don't know whether I should go to their associations and ask them to encourage them to do it, write to them direct. So I'm just after ideas. If it was your company and I was writing to you, asking you to do this, what would be your most favoured thing?
So I work in the university, I work here, so I would target something like the Royal Society of Chemistry,
So the association?
Yeah, the RNJ and stuff. They actually have dedicated websites for this.
Get them on side.
So basically they will not only send the emails that you want, they will advertise it on their website.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
You want, exactly.
So I need an authoritative start point that isn't me.
That isn't
Because
you, yes.
on day one I don't have any authority.
I'll go to IET, I make all of it, and it's not only universities that use these sites, industries use them a lot as well. So they will target the people that they're looking for basically, and they will advertise.
I can see the problem in that. You say I have no authority. So most associations will be very worried about a journalist.
Yes. Well,
potentially
it's interesting.
Asking these questions
because of the work I've done. I do have some authority with the associations because I know most of them.
But if you have a database, you have a product that is beneficial to them, and a lot of these societies are looking for these kind of open source products that are legally non-binding. Because it's open source from what I gather. So they love this.
It's a matter of trust.
It is trust.
So anybody can come up with the idea.
Yes.
As the email. But you've obviously got something more behind it. But that I cannot see from the email. So the association will be.
That's a good point. You can actually collaborate with a university or something and put somebody that they know, associate a name with it, somebody familiar that they know.
Yes. So because I was thinking there's exhibitions for each of these technology groups.
Yes.
And I thought, do I go to the exhibition and try and talk to 500 exhibitors, or do I go to the exhibition and talk to the one stand that is the association that represents 500?
I think the exhibition, I would give it a miss. Because, you may talk to the association.
I can get to the association.
But I found going to exhibitions to get them interested in what I'm offering doesn't actually work because they're trying to sell me something.
Yes.
And so sometimes you find an enthusiast and you give them your card, and that's usually the last you hear from them. It's
a one-to-one with the association.
So you get a university.
Get their buy-in.
Yeah, exactly. Get them to collaborate with you guys and write something with it, and then associate that university with the product. It gives a bit of credentials to
and we can highlight the association members in the database.
And once you know the name of the person in the association, at an exhibition, that might be a good opportunity.
Yeah.
You don't want the receptionist.
I don't know if anyone's had members of associations.
I'm a member of the IET.
Have associations got the whole kind of net zero
So-
sustainability thing, do they understand it? Do
Yeah,
they
yeah.
on side?
The IET, then I get
Yeah.
the monthly stuff that comes out from them. They're very open publicly in their publications, talking about stuff like sustainability,
Okay.
energy usage, recyclability, etc.
So I'd be happy to talk to them.
So I think what you're proposing is very much, at least from my perspective as an IET member, is very aligned with what that organisation is doing. I imagine a lot of them are doing the same because there's such a push from both sides. You've got government push and consumer push and professional push.
I'm a member of the Royal Society of Chemistry, and I can tell you for the past 2 years everything's been sustainable. Everything, every article, every sustainable.
So a lot of the ISD.
The other thing is to try and use your network to find a few key people who are willing to start working with you to use as like test cases and to use as advertising, like get on board, go, like, this is what we want you to do, and we will shout through the roof about you doing it first.
So like the low-hanging fruit type thing.
And do work case studies with how they've used it to improve themselves and stuff, and get the ongoing documentation and comms coming out from that to drive your other systems.
Yeah, good. So that's confirmed, roughly what I had hoped you were going to say. Which means I only have to go and see a handful of associations rather than hundreds of people who won't know who the hell I am.
And the thing is, the people at those events, they're pretty faces that are paid to shill a script normally, whether it be tech or industry. The people you want to talk to aren't there. They're in the business rooms and the hotels, and they're already pre-booked.
Cool. Right. High profile case study will go a long way.
We've basically run out of time anyway.